Hello, and welcome to 2026. We made it. This is my first video of the year, and I'm glad to be back here with you so early in the year. I was also just looking at the numbers, and we grew by about 50% in subscribers over the past year. So I really appreciate your support, and may it continue to be so going forward. Indeed. So today I'm not gonna be too long today. I just wanted to take some time to talk about a topic that I've been meaning to speak on for a little bit here. With the first 25 years, the first quarter of the 21st century done, right? It's a good time to look back and maybe build sort of lists of whatever phenomenon. And for me, one of my passions, of course, is Zimbabwean literature, across the board, Zimbabwean English and Shona literature, which those are the two languages of Zimbabwe that I do speak and can read. I would read more, but it's just that I don't speak the other languages. But in any case, I understand there's good work coming from those spaces as well. But I've been meaning to do this top 5 Zimbabwean novels, English novels, of the past 25 years. So, as I do this, I want you to know that this is my opinion, my list of favorites. And that's important to say. I'm not just using that to sort of cover my back, but because importantly, I recognize that for the first decade of the century, when I was in high school and so forth, I didn't do too much reading. At the time we were reading the classics. The nervous conditions, the bones, and the harvest of thorns and so forth. So I didn't really catch on to what was happening contemporarily in the novel space around that time. So the conversation for me really begins after 2010. And even then, I'm also not going to claim to have read prolifically. I've read more novels than the average person, but not enough to say, wow. I can think of 5 to 10 people who've definitely read more Zimbabwean novels than me. In that period. But in any case, I've still read enough that I really wanted to just kind of come in and get the conversation started. So, yeah, Zimbabwe boasts a rich literary tradition, very rich literary tradition. Back in the day, I've mentioned Nervous Conditions, which was included on the BBC's top 200 books of all time list. You have books like, I mentioned Bones by Chenjerai Howe, which is one of my favorite books I think it's in my top 5 novels of all time. I just like how he does it stylistically. There's books like the works of Doris Lessing, who came before, House of Hunger by the legendary Nambudzo Marechera. But in the 21st century, the narrative is just that the literature space is not what it used to be, and that's largely around the world as well. Readership has been changing drastically. Places of engagement shifting. So it is a little bit different. But we can go ahead and sort of celebrate what's been put out there, right? So before we get going, just allow me to give some shout outs to some honorable mentions, right? First, I want to talk about a book called Charwe by Elton Dudzo, who won a competition that Carnelian Heart Publishing put out, a short story competition, and that's how he got his publication deal with them. He's a young writer, right? I think I saw that he was like 22 or something like that. So his book contributes to the growing literature on the legacy of Charwe. For those who don't know, Charwe is, when we say Mbuya Nehanda, Mbuya Nehanda is the spirit, right? Is the spirit. But there's been many Mbuya Nehandas. But the Nehanda that you associate with Sekuru Kaguvi in the 1890s, who led that first wave of resistance, that is Charwe. So several people have written about her, right? Just in the literary space, Yvonne Vera's Nehanda is another one. Panashe Chigumadzi's These Bones Will Rise Again is another one, and that's just in the literature space. In academia galore, there's even a movie that recently came out. When I say recently, I mean in the past 5 years or so, that tells the story. So this work is being done. The only thing that I will say about Elton Dudzo is it really reads like he's getting started in his career. He'll fine tune his voice and get even better. But he's off to a great start. He needs some fine tuning as it goes. That's one. Swinging to the other side, from new authors to the season. Another honorable mention I have is Tsitsidanga Rempla's This Mournable Body, which in many ways serves as the third in the series that begins with famed nervous conditions, and it again follows the story of Tambudzai. I actually got this in 2018. A good friend of mine, shout out to Jayla, she got it signed by Tsitsi for me, and this is before I met Tsitsi. I think I've since met Tsitsi, but this is before I met her. So yeah. So why is the book by the iconic Tsitsidanga Remgwa, one of the greatest authors ever out of Zimbabwe, out of Africa, really, not making the top 5, especially since it's in the series of nervous conditions. I struggled a little bit. With this one. It really shouldn't be that problematic, but it's the use of the second person. So that from Tambu's worldview, right? So the author keeps saying, the story is told in that way. You walk up the stairs. I found that a little bit jarring. But other than that, that's just stylistic. That's just a personal thing. But otherwise, the story itself is sound, and it's very much in keeping with what that does. I guess to really get to the meat and potatoes of what my problem is. I felt that it cheated us a little bit of we're seeing the world strictly through Tambu's lenses, as opposed to in nervous conditions, for example, where I got to get a sense of what Nyasha is going through. I got a sense of what Aunt Lucy is going through. And it's a different book, but that's the personal thing that restricts this for me. Other books that I do want to mention, there's been books out there by authors like yours truly, Shigema Vima. I wasn't going to rank myself that high, even if I deserve to. But I still think all the books that I'm listing here are indeed some versions of competitive or superior to mine. I don't know how to say that without being self-deprecating, but also without sounding like I'm. But anyway, so yeah, published a couple of books myself. Pashena, which is more, we can say an autobiographic novel, right? Because it's it's fictionalized. But then I also put out The Leak. There's been other books such as I heard good things about Ian Holding's Unfeeling. I've heard good things about some of the works by Brian Chikwawa and Tendai Huchu. I'm still to really see what's going on over there, but I've heard polarizing things. But that's another author that's been around. Charles Mungoshi Jr. has written some cool stuff. Indeed. So that's sort of my honorable mentions. I do want to get into the list now, and number five I have with me here. We Need New Names by Noviolet Bulawayo. We Need New Names by Noviolet Bulawayo. This one came out in 2013, and among its honors are finalists for the Man Booker Prize, finalists for the Guardian First Book Award, National Book Foundation's 5 Under 35 honoree, right? This was under 35 when she wrote this. Winner of the inaugural Etisalat Prize for Literature, a New York Times Notable Book, NPR Best Book of 2013, Amazon.com Best Book of the Year, and Kirkus Reviews Best Book of 2013. Shout out! Give it up for Noviolet, yo. Give it up for Noviolet Bulawayo. Again, the book is great. We Need New Names. It's a debut novel, right? Tells the story of a young girl named Darling, who's 10 years old, who's navigating the chaos of Zimbabwe at the height of its sort of political malaise in the 2000s, right? Post land reform, height of ZANU-PF sort of deterrent intimidation, and eventually she gets the opportunity to come to the US, and maybe this is where also I resonated. It's because he came to the part of the US that I came to, right? He came to Michigan, and sort of that cultural adaptation, indeed. It would rank a little higher, and you can see it's awarded, so it doesn't need me to shout it out any more than I already have. But it would for me it would rank a little bit higher. I think the part when they were still in Zimbabwe is the strongest part of her. But once they come to once Darling comes to the US, it's fine. At that point it just becomes to me it sounded like just a story of adapting to this place, which is a story that I've seen and heard before. But the part when she was talking about being in Zimbabwe, that part was especially good. So this is my number 5 book. I really, really enjoyed it, indeed. Number 4, I've got a book, a novella named Shards, by somebody who has since become a good friend of mine, Cynthia Rumbidzai Marangwanda. It's a novella. It's very much in, I think it's about the same size as my own book, The Leak. And from the style, if I had a copy of The Leak here, you would see that it's they're from the same publisher. They look similar. But Shards was a very good book. It actually won a NAMA, which in Zimbabwe is the big National Arts Merit Award, in 2015, right? It's also a debut book, like No Violets, We Need New Names. Shards was also Cynthia Marangwanda's debut work. And it won the NAMA right out of the, And there's a comment here from the poet Memory Chirere, who is one of the most prolific literary figures in Zimbabwe right now. And in his review of this, he says, however, Cynthia Marangwanda's writing in Shards carries close and vigorous stylistic and linguistic echoes of Dambudzo Marechera. Marangwanda's hypnotic and intense writing style, done in a language laden with abstract and acidic imagery, create a mood with very close echoes to Marechera. So again, if you know the enigmatic Dambudzo Marechera, who passed away in 1987, by the way, for anybody to be compared to them is huge praise. Now, I'll say Shards and Marangwanda's work stands on its own merits, absolutely. But I just think that was pretty dope that Chirere was comparing her, or felt that her work evoked the iconic madman, Dambudzo Marechera, indeed. And here's a quote from the book that really just sort of captures her writing, and this blew my mind. I actually messaged her about this. I'm like, yo, Cynthia, off the bat, right out. The shower looms like a gas chamber. I turned the faucet and allowed the water to sedate me. I don't know how long I stand there, not touching the soap or the towel. Cinematic scenes play on the screen of my mind. Snapshots of memory click on and off. The water hums a warm chorus. My skin wrinkles, peels off, and comes to rest in a crumpled heap at my feet. The water shrieks a chord ballad. My heart beats a hallucinatory percussion. The water loses its voice and croaks hoarsely. Dry air assaults me. I bend down and gather up my dejected skin. Oh my God! It doesn't matter what she's talking about. The rest of the book is fire, but just listen to that use of language, right? To that imagery. Incredible work, man. Incredible work, Shards. That part I actually screenshot and sent it to her, and I told her, like, yo, I had to stop reading and send you this. This is amazing work. This is amazing work. So that's my number 4 book here, by Cynthia. Number 3 is a book that I had the honor of actually reviewing before it came out. It just came out last year, 2025. And that's Weeping Tomato by Samantha Rumbidzai Vajure. Oh, man. She does amazing work, and she's doing all kinds of things, but right now we're talking about this, right? Also won a NAMA Award for Outstanding Fiction in 2024. Incredible work. And I'll just read you what my review of the book is, as this is a book I read. But I'm very, shout out to Samantha, man. She's also the head honcho at Carnelian Heart Publishing. So I don't want you guys to accuse me of being biased, but it is what it is. It's an incredible book. The Nama people thought so too. So and this is what I said. The practice of storytelling is defined by and confined to the parameters established by any combination of several dynamics: space, time, theme, language, and genre among them. In Weeping Tomato, the author endeavors on a surreal sojourn that blends and moves between realms and phenomena that, at first glance, have no business being juxtaposed and paralleled, and triumphs in so doing. The story reads like Muchairo's Feso meets Black Panther, meets Vera Snehanda, meets Turnip Seeds and Love Noir, all without losing its definitive identity or becoming overwhelming. It is a story of forbidden love as much as it is one of the African Renaissance, a story of the immigrant experience as it is of the hereafter, a story of selfishness, self-affirmation, and selflessness. Weeping Tomato is a brilliant story that will inevitably serve as a time step in the evolution of the Afropolitan literary tradition that was Shingima Vima. Indeed. So those are all my sentiments. What is the book about? Again, it's all those things, but it does start to dig into the Afro-surrealism, Afrofuturism, right? While also being grounded in a love story, in a yearning for home, in a yearning for connection. So I really recommend Weeping Tomato indeed. Number 2 is this book called The Book of Memory by the incredible Bettina Gapa. Indeed. She also wrote the Elegy for Easterly, which I haven't read, but that one, right, Elegy for Easterly, won several awards. It won the Guardian First Book Award in 2009, the International Short Story Award, the Los Angeles Times Art Seidenbaum Award for First Fiction. So that book did really well. But the one that I'm really interested in is the Book of Memory here, which features, and I can, it's very interesting because it features an albino character here, the main protagonist. The narrator of Bettina Gapa's The Book of Memory is an albino woman languishing in Chikurubi Maximum Prison in Harare, Zimbabwe, after being sentenced for murder. As part of her appeal, her lawyer insists that she write down what happened as she remembers it. The death penalty is a mandatory sentence for murder, and memory is, both literally and metaphorically, writing for her life. As the story unfolds, memory reveals that she has been tried and convicted for the murder of Lloyd Hendricks, her adopted father. But who was he? Why does memory feel no remorse for his death? And did everything happen exactly as she remembered? Indeed. So, it's an incredible book. I love it so much because it's such an intriguing story, but it features this albino woman whose albinism is not the point. You know what I'm saying? Because usually when you see stories like that, they're also very sympathetic, just on the principle of that. Or, God forbid, that they are villainous, and we tag them as villainous because of some quality that they have that may not be orthodox to society in that way. So this is very well done, and it's such a thrilling read indeed. Oh, by now, before I go on to first place, yeah, this one will go on to be. It was awarded the McKittrick Prize from the Society of Authors, right, which is a British literary award. It was long listed for the Bailey's Women Prize for Fiction and shortlisted for the Prix Femina Étrange. So that last one is a French literary award established in 1985. So it's done very well. And if you know Bettina Gapa, she's a very vocal somebody in these spaces, and she's a brilliant writer. Somebody who I think I have no qualms saying that she's led the charge of contemporary writers among Zimbabwe. I don't think there's anybody who's done it quite like her. Many people, all of us are doing it, but I think this might be our team captain. Oh, by the way, you may have noticed one thing here, that of all these books, the top 5, what do they have in common? They were all written by women. So, first, to be clear, ever since Zimbabwe broke ground in 1987 with Nervous Conditions, up until then, it had been men, right? From the Stanley Samkanges to the early works of Shima Chinojga, Galore, all these works that came prior to that. But after that happened, as we were saying, Shona, Wakaenda Nichimuti, you know what I mean? So I was thinking about that as I was listing, like my top 5 is about to be all women. I need to vary it a little bit. Then I thought to myself, when my list have been all men, as many in many spaces, right? I've never thought to challenge it like that. You know what I'm saying? So why do it this time? It is what it is. The women have taken charge. I mentioned a few of the guys that I've been looking at, myself included. And they're doing their thing. The guys are doing their thing, but I think you would be hard pressed to really challenge this list. That's not to say the guys aren't writing at all, by the way. I'm talking about in the novel space. You have in the English novel space in particular. In the poetry space, right? You have the likes of Memory, Chirere, Ignatius, Mabasa, and all these guys who are doing all this work. In academia, the men are a dime a dozen. In Shona novels, even the guys are. It's just that in this very specific space, and maybe that's something that we can unpack a little bit later. Hopefully, I'll get one of the women writers on the channel here, and we can have the conversation on what the dynamic that has led to that is. Because my number one book of the of recent times of the 21st century so far is also Stone by yet another woman, Novuyo Rosa Chuma. Not to be mistaken with No Violet. This is Novuyo Rosa Chuma. House of Stone. What a trip. What a trip and what a treat. This book has been awarded, was also a first novel. So on this list do we have 4 first novels? Wow. But yeah, House of Stone won the Edward Stanford Travel Writing Award and the Bulawayo Arts Award for Outstanding Fiction, and was shortlisted for the Orwell Prize for Political Fiction, the Dylan Thomas Prize, and the Balcones Fiction Prize, and was longlisted for Rathbone's Folio Prize. Oh my God, way to come in like a wrecking ball. This is such a good book. It tells the story of something else that I'm very fascinated by, which is the Gukura Hundi massacres that happened in Zimbabwe in the early 1980s. Massacres of folks mostly in the Matabeleland and Midlands area. Robert Mugabe, as perpetrated by the 5th Brigade, North Korean trained 5th Brigade. But this takes place in the modern time, and I won't, it's a thriller, so I won't go too much into the plot. But there's this character here. Let me just read the rest of this synopsis here. In the chronic turmoil of modern Zimbabwe, Abednego and Agnes Mlambo's teenage son, Bukosi, has gone missing. And the Mlambos fear the worst. Their enigmatic neighbor, or lodger, Zamani, seems to be their last best hope for finding him. Since Bukosi's disappearance, Zamani has been preternaturally helpful, hanging missing posters in downtown Bulawayo, handing out flyers to passers-by, and joining in family prayer vigils with the flamboyant Reverend Pastor from Agnes's Blessed Anointings Church. It's almost like Zamani is part of the family. But almost isn't nearly enough for Zamani. He ingratiates himself with Agnes and feeds alcoholic Abednego's addiction, desperate to extract their life stories and steep himself in the borrowed family history, as keenly aware as any colonialist or power-mad despot that the one who controls the narrative inherits the future. As Abednego wrestles with ghosts of his past and Agnes seeks solace in deep-rooted love, their histories converge and each must confront the past to find their place in a new Zimbabwe. Pulsing with seduction, wit, and dark humor, House of Stone is a sweeping epic that spans the fall of Rhodesia through Zimbabwe's turbulent beginnings, exploring the persistence of the oppression in a young nation seeking an identity, but built on forgetting. Ladies and gentlemen, my number one book of the first quarter of the 21st century, as far as Zimbabwean English literature goes, is House of Stone by Novuyo Rosa Chuma. Amazing work. Amazing work indeed. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back soon. But yeah, be sure to subscribe. Be sure to share this video. Also, importantly, please leave me, because I said this was a comprehensive look at all the books. So if you have other opinions, other books that you think deserve to be on the list, let me know in the comments section. Much love, you're one.